MPV is a really nice cross-platform media player, and I feel like most folks use it for video playback. However, I feel like I stumbled upon a hidden treasure because it is amazing as an image viewer too. So in this video, we're going to go over looking at some videos and images, configuring MPV, going over some custom keybinds, and even writing your own custom Lua extension. Although technically I already wrote it, but we're going to go over how to do that and set it up if you'd like. So let's take a look here at MPV just for playing back videos. That's the common case here. So I'm just going to grab one of my videos here from a YouTube video about Neri here. And this is MPV here playing back this video. Notice that the video is playing, however, you can't hear the audio. That is because the source video was recorded with OBS and it has two audio channels, one for the desktop, one for the microphone. So if I were to click this icon, different hotkeys to do that. For example, then for a second there, you heard the actual audio from the video. So it's really easy to toggle between the different audio channels here if your video has multiple channels, which is pretty nice. Yeah, one of the greatest things about MPV is it really focuses on the media being played or presented here. Notice how there is no menu bar or, toolbar or sidebar or status bar. It's just focusing on the media here. And this is great if you want to look at like multiple things at once. For example, here's another video, you can just open up multiple instances of it. Here's an actual image opening up in MPV as well. So, that's really nice here. It's not distracting you with a whole bunch of stuff. But if you do want to get distracted by stuff, like maybe not distracted, but you want to see some stats, I just hit Shift I there. That's a default bind showing us all the different stats about the video. We can see the bit rate, resolution, codecs, frame rate, and all that stuff there. It's all there for you to take a look at here. No need to see that all the time, at least for me. So it's nice that it's hidden by default and very easy to pop on when you want. Of course, you could do very common things here with video player stuff. I can hit space. That is going to stop the video, or you can right mouse click here. That is going to do the same thing, basically toggling that. Here is an overlay. This overlay that we see here is presented by MPV here. We can jump around the different timeline if you'd want. What's really cool here too is, there's all sorts of different shortcuts that you can do. Like for example, if I hit the period, that's just jumping me forward one frame at a time. You can see my face moving there in the bottom right here. I'm holding it down now, so it's a little bit faster. But then yeah, you can also hit the comma key to go back frames. So super useful if you're scrubbing through a video, you just want to make sure that every frame is perfect, or you're not doing anything crazy like showing a sensitive secret from one frame. Being able to just jump frame by frame is pretty nice here. There's also really nice other hotkeys too. For example, I can do the open squiggly brace here, and then that is going to make the speed 2 times. And then 4 times if you hit it again, or you can do the left brace to half the speed if you want. If you want to go back slower or faster or whatever, you can see that little tooltip in the top left there. There it is again. So you can do that. The playback control is really nice because sometimes when I watch a video before I upload it to YouTube, I'll play it back at 2x speed because, a 30-minute video suddenly becomes 15 minutes. And, I can see this at 2x speed and take a look there. It saves me a lot of time. So that's pretty nice. So let me go back to the normal speed here. So that's something you can do. Now, when it comes to all the different hotkeys, there's a ton of them. So, if you go here and click this little menu, there's all sorts of different key bindings here. You can search for them. We're not going to go over all of them in the video. There's 233 of them. So, but they're all here if you want to go and check them out. So that's pretty nice here. So if we did a search something for speed, let's say, then you can see like, oh, these are the binds that I just hit, the squiggly braces here to basically double or half the speed there. You can also go in little increments if you wanted to use the brackets instead, maybe 10% faster, 10% slower. So that's how nice it is all set up there, which is pretty cool. And then, yeah, when it comes to a video player, other things that I think are really useful, of course, you can double click this to make this full screen. There's also hotkeys for this as well. There's subtitles, this one doesn't happen to have that, but you can toggle them if you'd like as well. But AB loops are also really nice too. So for example, let's just go to here in the video, whatever it happens to be. I don't know, it doesn't matter. But if I play this video and hit the L key, that is going to start an AB loop at the 6:11 minute mark. That doesn't matter, but now I'm going to hit L again. That's going to close the loop. So now this video is going to just loop between those 2 points in time. So we have 6:11, 12, 13, 14, blah, blah, blah. It's going to get to like 16 or 17, whatever it was. And then there it goes and it loops back again. And then you can hit L to clear that loop. You can see that in the top left there. So yeah, if you just have a specific part of a video that you want to watch in a loop, couple seconds, 10 seconds, whatever it happens to be, it's really easy to do that. I really like that. When it comes to something like a video player, that's kind of the things that I really focus on. Actually, I have a blog post that I wrote about this one. It'll be up by the time you watch this video. I just don't want to make sure I miss things. But yeah, when it comes to like video things like the AB loops, going frames, one at a time here, cycle playback speeds, subtitles, full screen, cool. Okay, so let's go back to MPV here and focus a little bit more on viewing images. So for that, let me go to a directory where I have a whole bunch of different images. This logos directory is pretty good. A lot of transparent PNGs here for different things. You may see these in some of the thumbnail images that I make on YouTube. So check it out. And by the way, a lot of these things now that we're going to talk about also apply to watching videos, but yeah, it really, in my opinion, it's really nice for viewing images too. So right away, MPV opened up this image at the exact resolution resolution of the image. So, if I open up the Docker one here, it's going to open up larger because the dimensions of the image is exactly that. If I do Shift I here, you can see the different resolution of the image itself. You can see it's 1316 by 1126 here. You can see all sorts of details about that, which is pretty cool. But yeah, let's say, you move that over here. Maybe you want to have the Arch Linux one open. Sure. By the way, the black background here, that's what it's showing by default for transparency because these are PNGs. Maybe let's open up the Docker Compose one over here. So you can imagine, if you're doing something where you want to see a whole bunch of different side-by-side images, then it's really easy to drag these to wherever you want, and they're going to open up in the size of the actual image, which is pretty cool. Now, what's even better, and by the way, I'm just hitting the Q key to close these out. There's even a better way to do that if you want to close a whole bunch of different things with a custom keybind. We'll go over that in a sec. But this image here is actually really big, and my desktop is now scaled by 3x. So this is scaling the actual image to fit the height of the desktop. So if you have a really, really big image, it is going to shrink, with the aspect ratio intact, the image to fit on your desktop, which is awesome. Super easy for being able to view very big images that might be larger than your display, but still actually have them in view. And what's pretty cool too is, maybe let's open up this one for GitHub. I can hold different hotkeys here. Like for example, I'm holding Control and now I'm using the mouse wheel. That's a custom thing. Maybe it's a custom thing. We'll check it out in the binds in a bit here. But this actually scales the window size just doing that. And of course, you can hold down the mod key if you're using Neri and just scale it with the right mouse button as well. And you can see the aspect ratio of the image is being changed, as long as I, resize this in a way diagonally. And that's actually a really pretty cool thing too, because check this out. So let me go back to the default image here, right? Okay, let's say you have this. Now, let's say this image were a lot bigger. Right now it's small, but I'm just gonna make it bigger just by, the aspect ratio like this. But let's just say that for some reason, you just wanted to view kind of the middle of the image, but you didn't want all the stuff on the sides and you didn't want to mess with the aspect ratio. So here I can just drag this horizontally and notice how it's cutting out the sides of the image here. It's just cropping it towards the center. And here it's even cooler is, if I hold down the left control key and now I hit, or I hold down the left control key and use the left mouse, I can actually pan around inside this image now to view, a specific area of it. So this could be really nice if, if you have a really big image and you just want to maybe crop into a certain area, you can do that on demand like that. So by the way, going back to what I said before about opening multiple things. So check it out. Let's say I have these 3 images open. I could go to each one and hit Q, or I can just do Control Q, and that's going to close all the instances of MPV. That's a custom keybind I have set up here. But yeah, going back to some things that I like about images, let's actually go back to the blog post, make sure I didn't forget anything. Yeah, minimal window decorations. Again, I really like that. Ability to open up more than one copy. Yep, size of the media here. Again, if it's bigger than the display, you just auto scale it to fit the height. You can resize things. You can even zoom into the media without adjusting the window size. So if we go to, let's say, I don't know, whatever, the Docker Compose one here, we went over before how, you can adjust the window size like this, but I can also just hold the Shift now. So I'm holding down Control Shift and using the mouse wheel. So you can actually zoom into different areas of the image like that, using a more controlled state here if you want to zoom to a specific amount. So that's pretty cool. And then you can also do Control Shift, and then I have it set up to where I just hit the middle button on my mouse and then that just resets the zoom. That's actually a custom extension. So we'll go over that in a bit too. Yeah, dynamically crop, we went over that one where you can kind of just pan into the area that you want. And then this is actually pretty cool too. So opening up any media through the file manager that we just saw a second ago. So for example, here we have a whole bunch of different PNGs, right? And now I can just hit Shift period, basically, the greater than sign, and that's going to go to the next image. So if I bring this up here, just so it's a little bit, easier to see on screen here, the whole thing, if I just hit this, I can just cycle between the different images here, or I can hit, the less than sign to cycle back. And if it gets to the beginning, which we're about to see in a second, so there's the Ansible one. So let me just move this out of the way. You can see Ansible is the first image in the directory here. If I hit the less than sign, then it's going to go to the X here. And let me just close this so it's out of the way here. That X is the last one. So it's kind of just filters between the directory that you have. Now, what's really cool about this is also works with videos as well. And the really nice thing is, let's say you have a directory, and I don't have an example here. Actually, maybe I have an example in this Neri one that we saw a second ago. Here, look, we have a video, that's a video, that's a video, that's also a video. And here's an image, and here's an image. So let me just open up this one and I'll hit the greater than, and notice how it goes right to the image. So it's filtering between the different images there. However, if I were to open up a video, do the same thing, then it is going to be filtering between all the different videos that we have here. So it knows the context that you're in here, but if, it's a configuration item. If you want to go through all the videos and the images together, you can totally do that if you'd like. So going back to here, that's what I was talking about here. Video was opened, only cycle videos. I don't have any animated GIFs to show you right now off the top of my head, but I have a couple, and yeah, they play fine. Yeah, we got the stats here, and also you can rotate things as well. For example, let's just open up, I don't know, maybe the Neri one here, and you can hit R to rotate this image 90 degrees, And then you can hit R again to flip it basically. Basically, yeah, you can just do this on videos and images. Pretty nice because sometimes, I don't know, on my phone or something, I might have an image that is just, it's off by, 90 degrees or whatever, and I just want to rotate that. So that's pretty easy to do. So let's go back to here. Yeah, that's basically that. Blah, blah, blah. We're not going to go over things. Well, maybe I'll just mention here real quick, like you might think like, okay, cool. It's great for like viewing images, but like, what if you want to like resize an image? Because Earthbound View is really good at that. In this case here, I actually have this little convert script in my dot files that let you do things like, run convert it to a JPEG or a PNG if you want, pop it the file name, tell it like what you want to resize by. You can do pixels or percentages and all that. I'll probably end up doing a whole video about that one, but like long story short, like I'm just using that script to convert things like, between file formats and sizes and stuff like that. It's even faster in some cases, or most cases here. And you can even do things like adjust brightness and saturation and other stuff in MPV. But if I'm really going to be doing that and saving the file, I'll just end up reaching for GIMP. I'm really using it as a viewer here. So yeah, with that said, let's go over maybe some configuration to see how I have all these things set up here. So for that, let me open up a terminal here. Might as well use some Tmux, make it a little bit nicer. So yeah, if we go to, let's say, the dot files and MPV, so maybe we should start with the config file. So this is, just, well, right now it's, it's in .config in my dot files, but just put it into your config directory here in under MPV. And then, this one will scale the media files to your display's height. So this is the config option for this. It's auto fit larger. And then also this idea of like pan scan 1. So when we looked at that idea of being able to look at images and then kind of just resize them horizontally, that crops it to the center here instead of scaling, which is pretty nice here. And then you can still scale there if you resize MPV vertically or diagonally here. Then we also, this idea of being able to go next previous, like if you open something in your file manager, then you're technically opening up one file, but yeah, this will basically just allow you to cycle things there. And in this case here, it's basically just creating a playlist for the same type of thing. So like images are only being cycled for images, and then the same things goes with videos here. And then when it comes to things like directories, if you wanted to, MPV could actually go recursively into directories here, but I have mine set to ignore here just so it only stays in the current directory, because I'm just going through a directory of images or videos or something. I don't want it to recurse. So that's how I have it set up here. Now, this is pretty interesting here too. Like for example, by default, I'm pretty sure after a video finishes, it's just going to close it. So in this case here, it's just going to loop, to infinity here. So I prefer that. And then also when it comes to images too, this is pretty nice because by default, if you open up an image, I think it might close after 5 seconds with MPV. So this setting here will also make it to where when you open an image, then it just won't auto close by itself. I believe there might be another way to do this where you can configure the images to stay open forever without making the videos also do the same. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I read that maybe a month ago or something. But yeah, I prefer this option because kind of get the best of both worlds. It does the thing that I want for both videos and images as well. So also here, yeah, when you reach the end of the directory for a playlist, for images or videos, whatever it is, then just loop back around here. Again, I like that. Again, you don't need to do that if you don't want. Maybe you do want it to end at the very end. You can totally do that. Now, let's say you are going between different images or videos, using the greater or less than signs there. Then all this stuff is going to get reset between each different file that you visit here, like the window scale and zooming and all that, because, you might be zoomed in for one image, but then, you go to the next one, you might not want that same zoom property. So this is going to reset all the different things here. All this stuff is in their documentation, by the way. Now, the last part here is maybe temporary. We'll see how it goes here. But you can configure an MPV to use different backends for displaying videos and images. And there's a couple of interesting things going on here. First of all, you can set a profile condition to do something basically like a filter saying, hey, only apply these settings to images, but it doesn't need to be just images. You can also change this to do something that you want. But in this case here, we're saying, hey, for all images that you open, then use X11 as the backend here, like the rendering engine, I guess, for MPV. There's a lot of different options for this one. Long story short, when I first went to native Linux, I had a video card that had 2 gigs of memory, and Neri has a memory leak in the latest official release as of February 28th, 2026. But yeah, that's been fixed now in the main branch, which is awesome. But yeah, in this case here, setting this to X11 avoided that memory leak as being a problem. So I had that set here in my config. I was also playing around using like a Wayland shim as the backend type. But yeah, long story short, maybe these settings will go away once that memory leak is in the latest release for Neri. We'll see about that one. But yeah, in this case here, it's pretty cool because yeah, you can have different settings for different things here. And in this case, it also helps me avoid some memory leaks issues, because you can imagine if you're opening up a whole bunch of different images and those images are pretty big, maybe you have an image from your phone that's like, like a 4K resolution. It could be like 5, maybe 10 megs just to hold that in memory. So if you opened up an image, then you closed it, then you opened up an image and closed it, and you did that a whole bunch of different times, suddenly you're going to be leaking hundreds of megs of memory. So this got around that issue here by setting this to X11. Maybe now we could take a look at some of the inputs here. So basically keybinds, these are all custom keybinds that I set up here for MPV. You just need to name the file input.conf. By the way, these file names are important. But yeah, in this case here, this one here for rotating, you can kind of just cycle values. That's a feature of MPV. We have it bound to the R key. And then what are we doing? Video rotate. And then we're going to be cycling between these different values here, right? 90 degrees, 180, 270, and back to 0. Likewise, we can also do video unscale. This is a behavior of MPV. But the really nice thing here, the cycle values, is yeah, you can kind of just cycle between these values. It's a really nice abstraction they provide here for being able to bind stuff here, which is pretty nice. Then we actually have, we'll skip this one for now. Maybe we'll go to this one. This is pretty interesting, I guess. Like, it's really nice, in my opinion, to be able to, sometimes use my computer with one hand. Like, there are times where, like, I'm just sitting back. I don't really want to mess around with keybinds. Kind of just want to, like, browse the internet with a mouse or whatever. And yeah, I have a lot of photos on my phone that I sometimes, sync back over to my desktop. And, here just makes it a little bit easier for me to use things with one hand here, where, for example, you can hit the middle mouse button to close the image. So if we go back to, let's say the images here that I had open, if I go to the logos here, if I open this one here, I can hit Q on the keyboard to close it, but I can also hit the middle mouse and that's going to close it too. And if we go back to here, we can see some of the other binds here too. Like, my mouse happens to have 2 thumb buttons, so I can use the thumb buttons there instead of using the greater and less signs. I can hit the thumb button, now going back and now forward with the other thumb button. That's all happening with the mouse, which is pretty nice if you want to do that type of thing. And then also Control Q is just going to run a shell command here, kill all MPV. So that's it. So instead of popping to your terminal, running kill all MPV, you can just bind that to one key here, and that's going to close them all. So, if I go here real quick, I think I demoed it before, but whatever, here's 3 different images that are open. I can just go now and just hit Control Q, and that's going to, whoop, hit the wrong actual key there. Let me open up another one so it doesn't look like I'm lying here. But if I hit Control Q now, that's going to close all 3 of them. I actually hit Mod Q by accident there, the Windows key before, because I was switching between the new keybinds as well. So yeah, these, the bottom 2 are actually a custom extension, but yeah, these are just doing things for certain things. So if I hold down the control mouse wheel up or down, or I do shift with that, then, these are all just built into MPV, things that you can do. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to do like a window scale or a video zoom. These are different things. For example, and I demoed them before, but like, if I hold down control here, this is going to be a window scale. You can see, it's scaling it in 0.5 increments there. But if I hold down shift at the same time, now it's doing a zoom. It's not actually scaling the window, which is again, nice, because maybe you want to zoom into here and then you can hold down control and left click and pan around. So if we go back to the binds here, that's exactly what these are doing here. And then, this one I wanted to be like, okay, if I hold down control middle button or shift here, it is going to reset the zoom here. And, this is double binded just so it technically does the same thing, but, I just want to be able to hit both of these and then it'll work. Because, maybe I'm holding shift down from a previous bind already, and I just want that both to work there. So you can double bind stuff if you'd like. Now, when it comes to creating this zoom reset thing, because this isn't built into MPV, notice there is a script directory here, or script, I should say, and then this file, extensions.lua, I believe could be named whatever you want here, but this is setting up this additional ability to do a zoom reset. And really, all it's doing, ignore, I guess, the Lua LSP here with NeoVim, it's not seeing this MP as a global that's available, whatever. But in this case here, just a Lua function saying zoom reset. What are we doing? Well, the window scale is going to be set to 1, and the zoom scale, or video zoom, is going to be set to 0. And then a nice little OCD message here, the on-screen display message, saying reset scale zoom 1x. So if we go here and take a look here, I can again zoom into this. We'll zoom into both of them. Now, if I just hit the middle mouse button while I'm holding control and shift, or just control, boom, reset scale zoom to 1. I'll do it again just so not, in case we missed it, there it is. So that's that. So it's super easy to customize what you see on screen. And there's just wires up things to be like, hey, by the way, the thing that you're going to bind is called zoom reset. What are you going to do? It's going to actually execute this function. Once you have all that set up here, then yeah, you can just bind this to whatever you want. You just tell it, hey, by the way, we're going to do a script binding. That's something provided by MPV. This is so cool because, one, it's a super lightweight program, very small, memory efficient, CPU efficient, but it's also like extremely customizable. There's been quite a few times where I'm like, oh, I wonder if I can do ... And then I'm like, oh, I look at the docs. Like, for example, if we go up here, the documentation here, there's a ton of stuff here. So there's like a million different keybinds, every little thing that you can configure, all sorts of stuff around, going over the Lua scripting if you want. Looks like apparently you can use JavaScript if you wanted to instead of Lua script. Personally, I would definitely stick with Lua script there, especially since NeoVim is using that too. But yeah, all sorts of different configuration there. And I feel like, I mentioned that in the blog post somewhere here too. It's not important, but yeah, here's some of the default keybinds that I use on a regular basis. Going to the previous next media, the squigglies there for handling playback speed. There's a stats there, the mouse wheel for volume. We didn't go over that one, but I'll go over that in a second. Here's like the different, next previous frames, and then you can toggle things, and there's the audio track. You can actually hit Shift 3 if you want to do that instead. But yeah, the mouse wheel, again, if you don't have a mouse wheel, you can always rebind this stuff and do different things as well. But if I go back to here, let's say we go into one of the video directories here, this one. Yeah, I'm just hitting the mouse wheel now to control the volume. There's other different hotkeys for that too. You can see the volume being changed there. But yeah, I believe like M might just like mute it, and then you can unmute it with M as well, in case you wanted to like quickly mute something. That's pretty cool. Geez, MPV, it is really the MVP of like a media player. So good for videos, so good for images, and I feel like I kind of just scratched the surface here. I mean, I've only been using native Linux now for 2 months. I kind of put this stuff together in my dot files maybe a month or so ago. I was going to say maybe 6 weeks. I don't know what it is, but it's like whenever I have that, can I do ... It's like, yeah, you can do it really easily. It's like, oh, you just want to rotate things in a little cycle. Yep, just set up a one-line keybind and you're good to go. So, all this stuff is available at my dot files here if you go and want to check it out. So if you go into the config directory there, everything we just saw on video is in this MPV folder here. Now, I would imagine by the time that you watch this video, or maybe in the future, some of these configs may change a bit based on different, things that I want to set up, but it's all going to be there if you want to check it out. So with that said, if you're using MPV, let us know in the comments below how you're using it. Are there any cool things that I'm missing here? What's some of your best tips? With that said, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help a lot. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.